Hey guys, welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Full Count Show brought to you by SportsMemo. But you know what today is? It's Tuesday. It's an exciting one. I'm excited to be bringing it to you guys too. If you've been watching on Friday, we started a new family affairs show between the D'Amicos and then me and my dad. Today is a family affairs takeover for $2 Tuesday. You got me, Joe D'Amico, and Dion D'Amico running your $2 Tuesday, or you get all three of us for $5. That's three 5% plays on football action this weekend for just $5. And guys, we got a two-man show for you today, but I wouldn't have anybody else with me other than Eric Pauly. So I'm excited to be doing a two-man show with you. How you doing today, Eric?
Doing very well. I actually kind of like the two-man just because a lot of energy to feed off of. Of course, having that third capper, you never know if you're going to get two people going one way, one person going the other, or if you're going to get that straight agreement. But I definitely am excited to be here with you today, Jeff, and looking forward to another great show.
Yeah, and it's a baseball show, but it is football season. I waited to bring Eric on before I mentioned this one, but guys, we got a heck of a deal for you too over at SportsMemo for football action going on. Normally, for a 30-day pass in the NFL or college, you're looking at $150 a piece. But right now, you can get your favorite capper for 30 days, get their NFL plays and their college plays for just $199. Eric killed it this weekend in NFL, especially on Sunday specifically. And I had a pretty hot Saturday in college, so go scoop up those football plays after the show too. But like I said, it's the MLB show for a reason, and we got plenty of winners and plenty of games to talk about on the slate. So it doesn't matter how many guys we got on the panel, we're still going to talk baseball. So game number one, we got Phillies heading out to Miami. Phillies got Bailey Falter on the mound, throwing the lefty. He's got a 4-3 record with a 4.02 ERA, but he takes on Sandy Alcantara for Miami, 12-7 with a 2.43 ERA. Miami's at a minus 120 favorite right now. Eric, what are you looking at on this one?
Yeah, so looking at this just overall team matchup. So, of course, Phillies and Marlins are familiar with each other being in the NL East. The Phillies, they're coming off a huge sweep of the Nationals, which they need to in order to build this momentum heading into the postseason. They have a 3.5-game lead over the Brewers for that second wild card spot and just a 1.5-game lead over the Padres for that spot as well. So coming down the stretch here, these are gigantic games for the Philadelphia Phillies. On the other hand, the Marlins, they don't have any hopes playing October baseball, but that does not mean that they cannot play spoiler to other teams in their division. If they're able to take some of these games against the Phillies right now, it might make life difficult for the Phillies to make the playoffs or ruin some of their seeding possibilities, make them play in that playing game. But going to this matchup, I mean, the season series between these two teams is the Phillies only have a 10-6 lead, which given how bad the Marlins have been, you would expect that gap to be a little bit bigger. But considering the pitching matchups, we have Bailey Falter going for the Phillies tonight in Miami. Through 11 starts this year, he's 4-3. You said that 4.02 ERA. You dig back a little bit further, and you'll find that 4.97 FIP, which obviously turns you off against him even more. It'll be his third time facing the Marlins this season. And his last start was actually against the Marlins in Philadelphia. And he actually had one of his better starts, 2 runs on 7 hits in 5.1 innings. But on the road this year, he does not have great stats. His FIP goes up to a 5.01. But the Phillies are 3-0 in his last 3 starts and 8-1 straight up in his last 9 starts, despite him kind of being one of the just not a very great pitcher in general. Of course, the great Sandy Alcantara is going for Miami, 12-7 with a 2.43 ERA, a 1.01 WHIP, and a 3.07 FIP. This will actually be his 6th time facing the Phillies this year, and his last start was against them as well. Allowed just 3 runs on 8 hits and 6 innings of work, which is a short start for Sandy this year. Just looking at this matchup, I mean, the Phillies need this win, and I know that Sandy has been so much better at home, 189 batting average against, 279 FIP, 0.87 WHIP. But the Phillies need this W more than the Marlins do. They're underdogs today, and I would recommend a play on the Philadelphia Phillies. I wrote about it for SportsMemo this morning. Just given this matchup, and seeing that the Phillies know Alcantara and they know the Marlins cannot hit well whatsoever, and they're last in the MLB against lefties this season in team OPS. Hard not to back the Phillies on the money line right now.
Yeah, I agree. I was kind of surprised. I was looking at that home record too for Alcantara. The team's 9-5 in his home starts, but they've won 3 straight. But the team Miami hasn't won back-to-back Alcantara starts since all the way back on July 10th. And I was surprised to see that the Phillies won Falter's last 5 consecutive starts. So I had to double check the fact that Alcantara had made 5 starts against the Phillies already. I thought that was a typo, but that's definitely something that stands out. But you got 2 teams that are running 2 different records right now. I mean, Phillies 5-1 in their last 6 games. You look back a little bit farther for Miami, they're 15-39 since July 14th, and they're just putting up 2.5 runs, and they're allowing 4.5. Philly, on the other hand, they're 17-3 on the road after a win by 2 or less runs. So they like to come out swinging after they only put up 2. And they're 10-3 in the first game of the last 13 series against the division. So you got a Miami team that is 8-29 against teams over 500 since the halfway mark of the season. And they're just 6-27 in the second half of the season against teams putting up 4.5 runs or more. So we know that Alcantara is not getting a lot of support from the offense, and he has been better. But hey, if I'm gonna ride with any trend, it's the fact that Miami hasn't won consecutive Alcantara starts since July 10th. So they did get the win in his last one, but I'm looking at the Phillies. I'm right there with you, Eric. So, guys, game number 1 down. Game number 2, I'm excited to see what Eric has to say. I'm going to kick this one off. We were actually together this morning over on the First Family with the D'Amicos and Don Buster. We were talking New York Yankees and Boston because I was looking Boston on the run line. I still like Boston on the run line. New York was minus 152, and Joe D'Amico took him on the money line. So you got Garrett Cole on the mound with an 11-7 record and a 3.20 ERA, and you got Pivetta on the mound for Boston. I mean, the Yankees are 10-5 in Cole starts against Boston, and they're 9-4 in his road starts. While Boston struggled in Pivetta starts, they're just 3-9 in his starts against the division, and they're 2-6 in his last 8 overall. But both the teams have played well. I mean, Boston's 6-2 in the last 8, New York 6-2 in the last 8, Boston 7-4 in the last 11. But these run line stats, if you guys were watching this morning, you heard a couple of them, but I'll run through them quickly. Did surprise me. Garrett Cole in the last 2 years, 8-20 on the run line against the AL East. He's just 3-9 this year. The Yankees are just 25-39 against the AL East, and they're 8-20 on the road in that situation. They've failed to cover 8 of the last 9, and they're losing by a half run straight up. I mean, they've lost 6 of Garrett Cole's last 7 starts on the run line, and Boston's 6-1 at home on the run line against the Yankees this year. So I thought it was going to be close. So I wasn't totally against Joe's Yankees money line bet earlier. I thought it might be a 1-run game, hence me leading towards the Red Sox run line. But I'm interested. Eric, what are your views on this one?
Yeah, so I think I'm not going to say either of you are wrong. You or Joe, when you were having this discussion this morning. Of course, I was tuned in there and was listening. I actually had a breakdown for that game written prior to that show, so I already had my thoughts. And my best bet for this show is going to be on this game. So I'll just throw out a couple of statistics and tell you how I'm feeling, and then we'll get into that a little bit later. But just considering the fact that this series, the Yankees only lead the season series 7-6, is a true testament to how the Red Sox have played the Yankees so far this season. So while I could certainly see the Yankees squeezing out a win, I do not see a situation where this is a blowout on either side. Then when you dive into the pitching matchup, that's also going to, make me more confident in the fact that this is going to be a closer game. So the Yankees 2-1 series win last series against the Rays was gigantic for them. I mean, now that 5.5 game lead in that AL East isn't even over the Rays anymore, it's over the Blue Jays now. They're creeping back in. Of course, the Rays are just 0.5 games back there. So the Yankees are still in must-win mode. This is momentum-building time for October. If the Yankees are incapable of maintaining this first spot in the AL East, I am not very bullish on their outlook in postseason. Also, New York is just 35-34 playing on the road. I mean, still a winning record and nothing to really be too cautious about. But I mean, again, with the Yankees now, they got to make the playoffs. I think they'll do that. But looking into the playoffs, being not that close to 500 on the road is definitely something that is going to be interesting, especially if they do not secure that AL East title. But you got Garrett Cole on the mound. Again, another stellar Cole season, 11-7, 3.20 ERA, 3.17 FIP, 102 whip. It'll be the fourth time Garrett Cole is actually facing Boston this year. And on July 7th, when he pitched against the Red Sox, he allowed 5 runs on 5 hits in 6 innings. It's the last time he faced them. But the Yankees still won that game, so not really an indictment on Cole there. On the road this season, he's been solid. That FIP jumps up to a 3.87. That batting average against is just a 2.10, which is fantastic, of course. Looking at the other side, though, Nick Pivetta, he was a pitcher that the Boston Red Sox had a lot higher hopes on for this season. Of course, the Red Sox, they're not making a run, unfortunately. 10 games back in the wild card, I just do not see it happening. For Red Sox fans, I hope they make it. I just don't see it happening. But Pivetta on the season, 9.11, 4.29 ERA, 4.13 FIP, 1.32 whip. Again, his fourth time facing the Yankees this season, and his last start against the Yankees, which was at home in Boston, which the game is tonight, he allowed 6 runs on 8 hits and was bounced after just 3.2 innings. His home stats, his home splits are actually worse. The FIP bumps up, that ERA bumps up, that whip bumps up. So you can kind of see where I might be leaning on this game. I'll give that whole. You're going to have to keep you with suspense like I like to do for the end of the show to see which way I'm actually going. But given where this matchup is shaking up, I would have to lean the Red Sox on that run line considering the season series, and I definitely expect a close game. I hope that Yankees win by 1, so both you and Joe are happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what we're all rooting for, but we needed that tiebreaker, I guess. So appreciate that. But let me give you one thing. We talked about it the other day, I believe, probably last week when we were talking about the Yankees being concerned about their playoff hopes. I agreed with pretty much everything that you had said. I think that they still were going to win the division, but I think that was getting a little nerve-wracking there for Yankees fans making that run into October. It's just 8 games, but it's a 6-2 swing in the last 8 games and back-to-back games with double-digit runs, a sign that they are building that momentum that you were talking about going into October, you think?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great sign. I mean, the Yankees, what was really bogging them down, well, it was a couple of factors, but what really bogged the Yankees down for starters was the fact that a lot of their players were overperforming in the beginning of the season, like Jamison Tyone, even Nestor before the injury. You can kind of go down that lineup and see those players, not named Aaron Judge, of course, who is fantastic, but they were overperforming. And then it's a team, the New York Yankees, that were built on the strength of their offense. They were getting such great outings from their pitchers, but those outings were just realistically unsustainable. Now, the offense, supposed to be the core of this team, was incapable of producing runs. You don't have great pitching, you don't have great hitting, you're not a great baseball team. Now, like you mentioned, the Yankees are coming around offensively, which is going to be huge for them in the season, because coming into this year, and it's not how it went to begin this season, but this might be how it goes to end the season, you would think that the Yankees would be winning games 9-6, 9-7, 10-8 because of their offense and not because of their pitching. And now that, again, their offense was quiet, but now that it's kind of getting revamped and their pitching staff is still kind of in that middle phase right now, we could go back to seeing those Bronx Bombers winning games solely on that offense.
Yeah, now it's exciting to see. At the beginning of the season, we were thinking about them breaking records and putting up win number crazy like that, and now we're wondering if they can sustain it through October. We've seen 2 completely different Yankees teams throughout this season, so be interesting to see as time goes on. But we got one more roundtable game for you, late one tonight. Should still be a pretty good matchup. You got San Diego heading up north, taking on Seattle. San Diego's got Yu Darvish on the mound, 13-7 with a 3.31 ERA, and it's a pitching matchup to watch because Logan Gilbert's on the other side. The righty's 12-5 for the Mariners with a 3.23 ERA, and Seattle's actually a slight favorite in this game at -108. And I thought it was interesting that the total opened at 8.5, and it's down to a 7.5. So, Eric, you think that total moved the right way, or are you looking at the side on this one?
Yeah, so this game intrigued me the most of any matchup on the board. As I've said many times on this show and other shows in Sports Memo, what gets me excited about baseball is a fantastic pitching matchup, and that's exactly what we have tonight in Seattle. I actually was not keen on the total in this game, so I wasn't even watching that move because I was so focused on a side on this matchup. and I'm going with the Mariners, on the money line tonight at home against the Padres. I mean, you got both teams that currently hold playoff spots in their respective league. The Mariners had that, slight 0.5 game lead for first place. The Padres is the 2-game lead for the last spot in the wild card in the National League. So the month of September is going to be hectic as hell in the MLB, but in a good way. It's going to be exciting. And now it's crunch time, right? You have the San Diego Padres that did so much around the trade deadline to make their team better and has yet to really pay those dividends. And you have the Seattle Mariners, who went on one of the best runs in the MLB this season, has an all-around great baseball team from the pitching staff to defense to their lineup. And you have these two teams right now that are both kind of running hot. Seattle certainly running hot, 20-10 in their last 30. Padres 16-14 in their last 30. And now they need to go head-to-head for not playing. It's funny because the Red Sox, Yankees, if the Red Sox win that game, they're obviously going to improve their own standing. In a Mariners Padres game, the loser of that game, it's really going to hurt a lot more because they're not having a team creep up behind them, but anybody else in their division or in that league that gets a win is going to be right away and getting that lead, cutting it down. But Yu Darvish is going for the Padres, and he's been really, really good this season. On the road, slightly worse. His ERA jumps up to a 4.09, and he sees an increase in batting average against and on-base percentage. But his FIP actually drops when he's on the road this season. But San Diego, not out of confidence. They're just 7-7 straight up in Darvish's road starts this season. On the other end, we got Logan Gilbert taking the mound for Seattle. 28 starts. I mean, this kid's been great. 12-5, 3.23 ERA, 3.49 FIP. He pitched against the Padres in that one series they had that the Mariners swept 2-0 on July 5th, and he allowed 2 runs on 6 hits and 5.1 innings of work in a Mariners win. And at home this season, he's solid. His FIP drops to a 3.06, but some of his other stats like ERA and slugging percentage against jump up a little bit. Seattle 7-5 straight up in Gilbert's home starts this year. Padres are actually a little bit better on the road this season, which is hard to believe in terms of scoring runs. So this is really this matchup being really 105, 115, 110 each way makes a ton of sense because this really is as even as a matchup as you can see at this point in the season with all this data on these teams. But given the state of both teams right now, I'm running with the hotter hand. I'm going with Seattle on the money line to win tonight.
I think I agree with you. Obviously, guys, there's only 2 of us here today, so I am weighing in on the games too, giving you a little more of my input so it's not just a one-man show. But I think I agree. I was looking at these pitching matchups and I was surprised recently how similar they were too. I mean, San Diego has won 3 straight Yu Darvish starts, and his ERA in the last 3 starts is a 2.70. Seattle's won 3 straight Logan Gilbert starts. His ERA is noticeably better in those with a 0.98. He's got an ERA under 1 in his last 3 starts, including consecutive starts where he didn't allow an earned run. But both these pitchers, are also noticeably better at night as opposed to their day starts. I mean, San Diego is 12-4 in Darvish's starts at night. Seattle's 11-4 in Logan Gilbert's starts at night. But the one that stood out to me for sure is Seattle's 16-2 after Gilbert gives up 2 earned runs or less in his last 2 outings over the last 2 years. And as I mentioned, he's gone back-to-back starts where he didn't allow a single earned run. And, I was looking at these teams recently, like you said, the last 30 days, they've been similar. I mean, Seattle's been better, obviously, but you just look in the last couple weeks, I guess, San Diego's 3-5 in their last 8 games. Seattle's 12-4 in their last 16. So trends may be staying even more drastically in the same direction, seeing as the Padres allowed 11 runs in their last game too. Seattle's 7-1 in their last 8 games as a favorite against teams with a winning record. And San Diego hasn't closed out a season well. They're 11-24 in September over the last 2 seasons, and Seattle's played noticeably better in their interleague play this year. But they are just 1-3 as a home favorite in interleague play, and San Diego's a dog in interleague play for the first time this year. So the one thing that did stand out to me, actually, the reason I saw that total move was because I happened to notice that 9 out of the last 11 head-to-head meetings between Seattle and San Diego, obviously they don't happen super often in interleague play, but the over is 9-2, and the average combined scores in those games was 11 runs, with San Diego putting up 6 and the Mariners putting up 5. So history says high scoring affair. Pitching matchup says probably not. So I'm staying away from that total. But I do agree with you, Eric. I'm looking at Seattle on this one for sure. So, but there you have it, guys. 3 round table games to go through. You got a couple opinions on those. You got a couple ideas on where to look there. But everybody comes here for the big moment at the end too. So, Eric, time for your big reveal. We'll head back to that New York-Boston game. What do you got for your best bet tonight?
Yeah, so my best bet for this matchup on the New York Yankees facing the Boston Red Sox in Fenway is going the over of 8.5 runs, -105. I got it up this morning. It's pretty simple the way that I see this matchup. So, of course, we already talked about how these two teams play each other tight. So just that prospect could lead to, potential extra innings in tonight's game when we know that is the under killer of all is this new second runner starting at second base rule in extra innings. But is this more so considering that Garrett Cole, while he's been on the road this year, he's pitching well. I'm not to say he's not pitching well, but it is worse than he's pitching at home. That FIP jumps up to a 3.87. His ERA is a 3.43, and the Red Sox have already seen Cole 3 times already this season, which I put a decent amount of stock in because I think it's more difficult for the pitcher. And also considering the matchup, I mean, the Red Sox, they're in win now mode. If you talk to somebody in Boston, they would think that they're trying to make a playoff push. Whether or not they actually can or will is a completely different question, but there certainly would be trying. And on the other end, we were talking about the New York Yankees. I mean, their offense is coming alive a little bit more. Nick Pivetta, who, again, Boston expected more from, at home this season, his ERA is a 4.76, his WHIP's a 1.47, and his FIP is a 4.47. So you have 2 pitchers that, again, I'm not trying to speak ill about Cole because he's great, that kind of underperform in comparison. Cole on the road, Pivetta at home. 2 lineups that are familiar with these pitchers, 2 teams that know the magnitude of this game. 8.5 runs seems very doable. I'm going with the 8.5 runs for the best bet on the show. And I also want to shout out in the comments, Groovy Meister. We are working on getting some new shades. Do not worry. Thank you for the concern.
I like it. I was going to say, I was going to jump over that comment section too real quick. I saw Charlie's Creations. I really couldn't tell you where – being on the Phillies, what could the books know that they're the favorite on the Marlins? The only thing that stands out to me is the fact that that it's Alcantara on the mound. I mean, Eric, you can, feel free to follow this up, but I think it may be a look at a 4.02 ERA for Bailey Falter, even though the team has a good record, and looking at who's on the other side with Alcantara, because I don't know. I can't think of anything else that would put the Marlins as a favorite. Can you, Eric?
No, I think you're making great points. I think unless the books are really expecting some true regression, again, the Phillies being 8-1 straight up in it's Falter's last 9 starts, that's not a run that it's going to be sustainable over a long period of games. Of course, you have Alcantara on the mound for the Marlins, and he has been so much better at home this season, so they're giving him, I guess, the benefit of the doubt. Going back to, again, the Phillies leading the season series just 10-6 over Miami, so it's not like it's been a very lopsided series. These teams face a couple more times, so, of course, the Marlins could end up even winning the season series. It's a great question, and these are like literally what Jeff and I and the rest of the SportsMemo Wager Talk handicapping crew go through every single day, is trying to figure out the what, whens, and whys on these lines and where they're going to go, and kind of trying to figure out where there's value and why and how. In this matchup, why Miami was favored in the first place is a very tough question, but I would again go with the fact that the Phillies' success under Falter is unsustainable. Alcantara at home has been electric. You could see 9 innings out of him tonight in a complete game, 2-1, 1-0 shutout win. So Miami, better pitcher, better at home. They can't hit lefties, which concerns me, but I think they're expecting some regression from Falter.
Yeah, that's just like you said, Eric. That's what we look for. So that was one that stood out to me this morning when I looked, and obviously we looked a little more for this show, and I still couldn't find much. So, but guys, I still got a best bet for you. So looking at one last game to put on the card for you today, I like this Atlanta Braves run line. I mean, they have Kyle Wright on the mound. You're looking at even money going up against Jake Junis. team's 5-3 on the run line in Kyle Wright's starts, but they're 2-1 in his last 3 starts on the road. San Fran is 1-7 on the run line in Junis's last 8 starts, which includes a 1-3 record at home. He's got a 6.46 ERA in his last 3 starts, and they're 5-10 on the run line this season. So since the start of the second half, San Fran hasn't been as good on the run line as they were from when they started. They're just 2-10 versus teams that are winning by a run or more. But throughout the entirety of the season, they're just 29-41 on the run line at home. And they're hitting 207, and they're putting up under 3 runs per game over their last 7. Well, you got an Atlanta team that's obviously going hot into the playoffs and looking to continue that run. They're 41-25 on the run line after scoring 2 or less runs. And this is an offense that doesn't score that low very frequently, especially back-to-back games. They're 13-3 on the run line after losing 3 of their last 4 games this season. And they've lost 3 consecutive. So they've lost 3 out of their last 4. They're looking to bounce back big tonight. And they at least have a winning record on the run line on the road this year. They're putting up 5 runs per game, and they're 38-31 on the run line. So you're taking on a team like San Francisco that's struggled to hit recently, struggled to put up runs recently, and struggled all season at home on the run line with a pitcher that I wouldn't back in Jacob Junis. So Kyle Wright has obviously got the edge in the pitching matchup. Atlanta's got the edge on the offensive side. I like Atlanta on the run line in this one. So that's the best bet for you tonight, guys. And you got a couple more free winners from us today. If you guys watched this morning, we appreciate it. If not, that probably means you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel. Definitely go like and subscribe to that, guys. You'll get all the notifications, all the updates when we got videos, when our shows go live, and you get some of the best information from cappers all week on the site. So definitely go check that out, guys. Check out the promos that we got running. Definitely check out $2 Tuesday, and make sure you go over and check out what Eric Pauly's got posted too. And if you look out this weekend for his NFL action coming up, so take advantage of those customer promotions that we got going on over at SportsMemo. But guys, that's all we got for you for this Tuesday. Thank you for joining the 2-man show from Eric and myself and everybody over at SportsMemo, guys. Good luck and have a great night.